Hey guys, Kyle, the Death Knight of Anime here, bringing you my late night review for Fire Force Season 2, Episode 12. And honestly, right out the bat, I'm just gonna say this. This episode, mwah, this was a visual, like, not even just a masterpiece, but a visual feast for the eyes. Like, there's so much to talk about with this episode, but yeah, like this was honestly just on a visual perspective, this was one of the better episodes of Fire Force. I'm just saying that right now. But okay, so starting off, I guess small. The big thing to talk about with this episode is the fact that we dive deep into Joker's backstory with this episode and how he was once trained to be an assassin of the Holy Soul Temple, which in itself obviously shows the depth of the church's corruption. But adding to that and seeing how they enforce the idea of a single collective identity over individual will kind of exposes how much of a cultish operation the church in itself really is. Yet, ironically enough, you see how their influence and growing up in that environment had formed Joker's opinions of the world and how living on the outside of society, it it truly is kind of the only way in order to be free. Because if you do anything to fall out of lockstep with the church it will pretty much make sure you understand not not pretty much only the heavy toll that you will suffer in order for abandoning the church, but also that there really is no chance at a life beyond its teachings, and that you either serve and die as part of the collective or live isolated forever as an individual. They really take that they really take that isolation part legitimately seriously, as we see. Like he was basically like they pretty much killed like Joker's foster family in this episode. And I guess and just diving a little bit into that diving a little bit into that, like what I was talking about visually with this episode. Joker's backstory as a whole, the way it was handled, is one of those times where I once again feel the anime did better than the manga adaptation wise, just for the small things like visual and soundtrack. Just how the visuals and soundtrack had created this much heavier atmosphere and just kind of emphasized the consequences Joker faced from betraying the church. I mean, for example, that pretty much whole scene of that whole scene of Joker discovering his basically his murdered foster family. I'll be honest, that's actually a moment where the anime actually kind of outdid the manga, and they actually got a lot more bloody with that situation. Like they pretty much like the anime, they pretty much like they pretty much emphasized how much of a mass murder it was. They pretty much emphasized almost how much it might have been over the top, but they kind of emphasized how much of it was. It was basically just how they kind of emphasized the whole mass murder, how much of a mass murder it really was. Like that there was blood all over the place, and whereas with the manga, it was just two bodies on the floor. So yeah, just I do got to give points to the anime for that, for just kind of emphasizing just pretty much how far and while it might seem excessive, I think it just emphasizes just how far the church is willing to go in order to truly teach any deserters this lesson to them. So yeah, and yeah, like I said, now let's dive art and animation, because like like I said, the art and animation this week, it was a visual feast. And feast for the eyes, like a masterpiece. There are so many ways to describe art and animation this week, and especially when we got into the fight, but when we got the fight rolling between Joker, Benimaru, and the Church's assassins. And even though it's pretty much how the rest of the episode played out, I do like how knowing Joker's backstory does add a much more personal touch to this fight. And for Joker, coming back to face the Church was a means for him to officially sever all ties with them, because really up to this point all he has been doing has been kind of running away from them. But this fight was the opportunity for him to finally close the book on all that. But just getting back to art and animation. So sorry, I got off topic. I need to get a little bit into story. I need to get a little bit into the dynamics of that fight. But getting back art and animation. the cool thing, the absolute amazing thing with this episode is that I don't think they really they started off small. Like one of the cool things with this episode is there was a certain point where the episode gives us a visual of Joker's cigarette pack while he's talking, and that's actually a nice example of incorporating a cover page into the story, and it also serves as a very sleek transition. But that was only the start, because after that, like the whole fight in itself was really just a prelude to the absolute madness and insanity that Joker unleashed when pushed to the brink, where he not only unleashed an army, an army of clones, but also a life-sized illusion of the Joker card, and that that moment is where that is the visual feast moment of the episode. Like that is the moment where the art and animation just blew up into what, like, and genuinely, like, it's such a visual feast, but at the same time, it the pretty much way that they handled the whole Joker scene, you could call it, is the anime. The anime took a very cool visual concept from the manga and actually made it way more terrifying in this episode. In fact, like I said, like this whole episode, this is one of those times where, as a whole, I think a lot of this episode and the studio had done with the adaptation of the material actually made a much more graphically detailed experience than its manga counterpart. Like there was just so much about this episode, or I can go on and on and on about all the little details in this episode that pretty much made it such a visual visual splendor to just watch. Now, granted, I will give the episode this caveat. If you're at all like pretty much seizure prone, I would be careful when watching this episode, because I can see a lot of these visuals being very pretty much managing to in order to induce seizures, because I'm lucky enough that I haven't had a seizure in a long time. But yeah, if I was watching this episode like 20 something years ago, this would have given me a relapse for sure. But yeah, if you're that's the one thing I will admit. Well, all the visuals were such an amazing feat. Were just so pleasing. Were just so amazing to look at. It is kind of one of those things where you got to be careful, and it makes you're just not seizure prone, because if you are and you're not protected in some way, it is gonna. It might cause you a little bit of that stuff, but might cause you to relapse a little bit. But other than that, like, yeah, what more can I say? Just this was a visual. This was honestly the most visually spectacular episode of Fire Force I've seen yet. Like, again, going back to that Joker scene, it was not only fucking terrifying, but it was something out of a damn comic book or something like that. Like, oh god, I love this episode for just its visuals alone. Of course, the episode ends on a major cliffhanger with Captain Burns confronting Joker, and yeah, we've definitely all seen this setup before, so I don't think I really need to tell people that he's not gonna fight them. It's more than obvious, really. If anything, it's more than obvious. He's just there in order to help them, and really, if anything, I wouldn't be surprised if Licht had sent him there as a means of backup, or to provide a cover, or provide a little bit of cover, or in case something went wrong. But so yeah, I really don't think I don't think, as cool as it would be to see Joker and Captain Burns go at it, I don't think it's gonna be the case. Like, you can definitely tell just from the way they met, just from the way Joker had talked to him in those final couple minutes, you can tell that there's a little bit of a mutual respect there for sure. So yeah, for as cool as it would be, I don't think they're gonna fight each other. And besides, Joker pretty much he even said he'd used up all his cards. So yeah, but yeah, like, really, what really else is there to say about this episode? It was just this this episode was fucking amazing. If not for the fact, then if not for the visuals, then just the fact that we got to explore a lot more with Joker's history in this episode, and we know a lot more of where he came from now. So yeah, but yeah, guys, that's all I got for this review. If you enjoyed the video, like, comment, subscribe, follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and list your Crunchyroll. Death Knight of Enemy, signing off. Later, guys.